Hello everybody, this is Tim here again. This time with kind of a little different video. Like I usually don't make videos about this kind of stuff, like actual topics in the real world and stuff like that. Although I've been kind of doing some funny videos lately about different stuff and all that kind of thing, and making little kind of troll reply videos to certain people who I think their opinions are kind of stupid. But I wanted to make this video because, like I said, I don't normally make videos like this, but I kind of felt inspired to do this. I wanted to make a video on the whole cancel culture thing, like with the whole thing that got going now with like the Pepe Le Pew thing. Like if you're not following stuff, like there was a group of people, like either on Twitter usually or somewhere else, that were complaining about Pepe Le Pew, the friggin' cartoon skunk from Looney Tunes, being offensive because he was in an episode of the Looney Tunes show way back in the friggin' day where he had a crush on a cat, and the cat didn't want anything to do with him because he stunk, because he's a skunk, and he would keep being aggressive and keep going after her and trying to woo her, and she would keep turning down his advances to the point when you get to the end of the episode where she does fall in love with the skunk, and he gets what he wanted, but then he realizes he doesn't want it because now she's the aggressor. That's the joke of the episode. It's like, be careful what you wish for, pretty much. And the whole idea of Pepe Le Pew is that he's like a stereotype of the sexy Frenchman, except he is a stinky skunk. So that's the joke. Like, anybody who watches the Pepe Le Pew episode knows this, like, obviously. But some people have like started saying that this character is offensive because he promotes like sexual harassment. That's not the intention of the episode. And I watched like the double toasted reaction to this stupid shit, where they kept saying like, yeah, the majority of people who watch the episode who have seen it aren't going to go out and try to commit sexual harassment or rape because they know the difference between a freaking cartoon skunk and reality. I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. But the guy who runs that channel pretty much, or who does everything on there, Corey Coleman or whatever, pretty much at the end of the episode, pretty much at the end of his monologue, the guy's like, well, but he had to be removed because you got to get with the times, and what was funny then ain't really funny now. I'm like, a French parody of a cartoon, a parody of a sexy French guy with a cartoon skunk is still kind of funny, I gotta say. Who thinks he's sexy and attractive but doesn't realize he isn't, he's too stupid to understand he is. Like, people today will still understand what that is. And if you got like a small, because trust me, the majority of people are not complaining about Pepe Le Pew, the cartoon skunk, whether they be women or men, they're just not. So you got like, what, maybe a small minority of people complaining about a damn skunk cartoon. Okay, those minority of people, let's say they're complaining about it. Obviously they watched the episode or they just seen snippets from it and just decided to complain about it without even knowing the context, because they just want something to complain about, because they're the whole, let's jump at any cause no matter what it is, even if what we're fighting against doesn't really make any sense. There's a lot of people like that these days. When there's much really important things out in the world that really could be fought against. Hell, there's a lot of racism and animal cruelty going around where I live, and ain't nobody doing shit about that. They're too busy fighting off cartoon skunks. But yeah, some of those people, let's say probably even half of them, haven't even watched the episode. They just seen clips and they're just like, oh, it must be promoting sexual harassment. They just have no idea what the context is of it. They just see like snippets of him like kissing on the arm of the cat or something. They're just like, he's a sexual aggressor. Like, they just don't know. And then you got the other half who have watched the episode and just misinterpreted it and don't understand what they were actually doing with the episode. Now, those are now you can say, well, certain things are done in a certain way to where you can draw your own conclusion from. Yeah, you can always draw your own conclusion from anything. That doesn't mean that's what really the show is saying. It's really obvious what that episode of that cartoon skunk is saying. I mean, it should be really obvious not to get offended by that. But you're gonna have those people who just watch it and just draw off their own conclusions because they have already their own agenda and thoughts and biases in their head, like some of them do. So they're already gonna like draw their own conclusions from it because they're gonna want to see what they want to see, or they'll see stuff and manipulate it into standing for what they want it to be. You know what I'm saying? And then you'll have like the one group though who actually does just misinterpret it and just don't get it. Like, those people could just like simply have it explained to them and understand what the obvious intention was. And this whole thing about being respectful to people that Corey Coleman brought up in the double toasted video, I'm like, being respectful to people, okay, how are they being respectful to people? It's not like they're erasing the cartoon from existence. You can still buy DVDs with it on it. All they did was remove a Pepe Le Pew cameo from Space Jam, for God's sake, from the new Space Jam. So you're telling me that people, some people, not all, but some people are like so traumatized by this cartoon skunk that literally if they saw him pop up for a 2-minute cameo in Space Jam 2, they would go into convulsions. I refuse to believe that people are that stupid. I cannot believe that. Or people that are that weak-minded. I mean, if you are not so much weak-minded, but if you're that easily like offended or blown away by something like a 2-minute cameo of a skunk in Space Jam, how do you survive? I mean, not trying to be mean to people, but seriously, if you're that easily offended by something just of like a 2-minute cartoon cameo joke with the skunk, then, buddy, you ain't never gonna make it in this world. And then the problem comes down to like corporations and all this. They're not taking this shit seriously. Like Warner Brothers, when they probably heard about this, like some people actually find this cartoon skunk offensive. Don't they even know what the purpose of this character is and what the context of his episodes were? They don't get it. Like, why are they offended? You know that's what they thought. Come on now, we know it was. So their response to that is, well, we don't want to risk losing any money on this or causing any controversy, so let's just remove it. It's not to pay respect to people's wishes or anything. Give me a break. It's just to keep any controversy from coming Warner Brothers' way, because they're already been massively accused of racism by Ray Fisher like every single day. So they're not in good with the public right now, really, especially DC fans. I mean, come on now. But yeah, and the other problem with this kind of stuff is like, who decides what's offensive? I mean, who decides? Like, there's only like a minority of people that are offended by this cartoon skunk. So, does the minority decide what's offensive? Because and when it comes to like most of them not even understanding it or getting the context, do they still get to decide what's offensive? Okay, does the majority get to decide what's offensive? I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it depends on how smart the majority is. I mean, is the majority really considered smart? I mean, the majority of movie critics like The Last Jedi, so are the majority of people that smart? Usually a person is kind of smart, but when you get him like in a group, it all becomes like manipulated, becomes like popular opinion of what is the popular opinion of today, and that becomes what the majority opinion is. Even if like there's multiple people in the group who are just kind of like the small number who say, you know, this is kind of stupid and doesn't really make sense. Those people are just kind of outvoted because the majority go with the popular opinion because they don't want to seem controversial. They want to, you know, be popular or seem cool or well known. It's just like in school, adults still do the same thing. It still happens. But yeah, that doesn't. I mean, who decides what's offensive, and who decides like what the exact treatment to do with what's offensive is? I mean, like with Warner Brothers, they removed the 2-minute cameo of a cartoon skunk from Space Jam 2. I mean, if they didn't announce it, nobody would even notice when they watched the movie anyway. I mean, is that really gonna like change things? I mean, like I said, the episode is like still everywhere and you can still get it. I mean, but would being like extreme and like banning, you know, all the old episodes of Pepe Le Pew everywhere be the correct response? Or would that just be like, you know, the equivalent of book burnings except with cartoon characters? Would that just be the extreme psychotic response? And you'll have other people saying, well, he's not really, the character's not like canceled or this person isn't canceled. The corporation just, you know, responded and did what they want to do because they own the property. Yeah, that's true, but they wouldn't have done it if they weren't afraid of their money flow being hurt. Which, you know, they're afraid of the small number of SJWs and just people who are offended just to be offended, and other people who are actually offended who just don't understand and are just complaining. So they're just afraid of repercussions from that small group because it would make headlines no matter what. Like even in today's culture, because it's become like a clickbait media thing to like have anything that's considered offensive to be like a top story no matter what it is, no matter how stupid it is or non-offensive it is. It's become that way. So no matter what, even if they left the cameo in, you would still like have multiple articles pop up saying Warner Bros. Leaves in cartoon skunk despite controversy, which there's barely any controversy at all. But that's what the headlines would read, like despite controversy. Like that'd have you thinking it's like some major thing. Then you go on Twitter and see like 10 people out of 1 billion complaining about it, and that's pretty much it. But it's just weird. Like, who gets to decide what's offensive? And then there's the other thing of like, how do we as people deal with stuff that we find offensive? I mean, we could just, gee, hell, I don't know, not watch the movie if you're that offended by the skunk having a 2-minute cameo. Or you could just not watch the episodes of the cartoons that he was in. I mean, just change the channel. Is it that hard? I don't really get that. And not all people who are offended by, like, the skunk and other stuff are stupid. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of them are. But not everybody is. Some people are just offended by it because they just don't understand, because they're just getting their own conclusion. But, like I said before, you can draw your own conclusion from anything. Like, you can watch Passion of the Christ or any kind, or you can, anything, and draw your own. You can watch, well, what I'm saying is, like, a person can read the Bible and just see, and just notice all the death and violence and draw the conclusion that God wants you to go out and blow up churches or blow up schools and stuff and murder millions of people or whatever. And then another person can read it and just be like, well, you know, God and Jesus want me to be, you know, a cool guy, go out and help people and stuff like that, and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's your own personal interpretation. You can have your own personal interpretation of anything, but just because a minority group of people are having their own personal interpretation of something when everybody else can kind of see it for what it is, to me, that doesn't mean that you should just try to get rid of something or erase it because of that. That's way too much of an extreme reaction. Of course, Warner Brothers is known as being extremely reactionary. If you've seen their DC movies and how many times they've tried to reshape that franchise over and over throughout the years, you know what I'm talking about. But, like, another thing, I keep bringing up Double Toasted because I watched their video today and it just really annoyed me. That's why I had to make, like, that troll joke video about him already on my channel, because the dude in the video, Corey Coleman, like, if you followed him from Spill.com, you would know that that guy has used, like, the word nigger like 1,000 times in his videos. Yes, it's a bad word, but I'm using it here because I feel like I need to in this context because it's appropriate. But he's used it like 1,000 times for just comedic purposes back in his Spill.com days and multiple movie reviews. Okay, now, some black people on Twitter deem it not cool for black people or white people to use that word, whether it's for comedy or not. So, should those people be allowed to have, like, his videos removed? His old Spill.com videos removed? Because some of them are still up on YouTube. Should they be removed? And then you got the other thing about he's made fun of religious people like thousands of times. Now, I don't have any problem with his comedy, to be honest. Like, his race comedy, his whatever comedy is fine with me. I'm fine with using, like, racial slur words and all that kind of stuff for edgy comedy. If you're watching an edgy comedy or doing edgy comedy, if you're someone who's choosing to watch it, you know what you're getting into. And if you start to watch it and you get offended by it, simply don't watch it. It's just the person trying to do comedy. Let the people who enjoy edgy comedy enjoy the edgy comedy, and let the people who don't. It's fine. But, I mean, anybody can be. There's always groups of people that are offended by anything who are always going to be offended by something. The majority of people in the United States are religious, so he's made multiple videos, or had multiple videos before, or in his past, where he's made fun of religious people and made religious jokes about Jesus and other stuff. So, and they do it all the time in media. Now, I'm not offended by it because it's a movie. I don't care. I'm fine with religious comedy as long as it's funny and well done. I mean, even if it's not funny, I'm not offended by it because I can tell when something's trying to be offensive purposely and when it's not. And even then, I'm not offended by anything in a movie because it's a movie. I don't give a rat's ass. But some people will, like, they'll be offended by that stuff if they're like really hardcore religious. And most people in America are religious, so should all those people be allowed to cancel his show now since he did all those types of jokes in the past? I mean, religious people have been offended by that kind of stuff, or some religious people have for years, and they're still doing it in lots of entertainment. So should their channel be shut down or his stuff be removed just because of that? I mean, where's the line here? As far as I'm concerned, you can say or do whatever you want. Yes, you can be held accountable for it, but context does matter, and I feel like appropriate responses should be done. Like, when it comes to, like, the Pepe Le Pew thing, to me, the appropriate response should be the studio simply explaining what the intent of the cartoon was, and saying pretty much, hopefully, people will understand what the intent of this character is. and that if you're offended by it, simply understand that's not the intention. Just release a statement and explain it, and that should be it. That's done. It's over. When it comes to like religious jokes and things like that in movies too, like I was talking about, you shouldn't really be offended by that, whether you're religious or not, or even atheist jokes if you're an atheist. Like, it's just humor. Don't be offended. It's just humor. Whether it's funny or not, the intention of it is just to be humorous. Yeah, there are some movies with stuff in it where it just does seem like a personal attack, and you can tell sometimes when movies are just doing personal attacks on people, whether they be religious or not religious, or doing personal attacks on different people's faith or anything like that, like whether it be Jewish or no faith at all, like I said, like atheist or whatever. Like, there are movies like that with that kind of intent by the people working in it, and you can see it. But at the same time, you shouldn't really let yourself get offended by it and try to cancel it. Just post your thoughts about it and explain why it's stupid, and then just move on. Don't give them your money. Don't support the product if it sucks. Simple as that. But yeah, all in all, it's just really stupid. Like, the whole outrage culture, and like, it's just become like a joke now. We're getting to the point where instead of like going out and fighting actual racism in real life, or actual rapists in real life, we're spending our time whining about cartoon skunks. Come on, people. For the love of God. Wake up and realize that stuff like this is just like a detour started by like the far left, extremist liberals. It's just like a way to get them into the popular, zeitgeist, or whatever you want to call it, of America, just to have something to complain about so they'll be noticed. For a lot of people now, outrage culture has just become something you can just latch onto to be hip and cool, just to be noticed. It's just become like a joke almost. And it's not just liberals either. There's far-right Republicans who are complaining about stupid crap all the time too. It's just that the liberals seem to be more in the press and the news now, because most of the stuff that's being complained about is stuff that I've only heard extremist far-left liberals mention, so that's why I harp on them more. I'm not political at all. I don't care about Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or whatever. I couldn't give a rat's butt. But I don't care about politics whatsoever. But at the same time, people on the far left do seem to be the ones who are getting pissed off about everything. And when I say far left, I mean like the extremist left. Like, most ordinary liberals have the sense to know that Pepe Le Pew is not offensive. Most of them are just sitting back going, "You're making us look stupid. You're making us look stupid." I mean, honestly, they are. But at the same time, the vocal minority has been given like the most press and have become the loudest. They've become the majority, even though they're not, because they've just been given the most platforms to spew off, especially on Twitter, about anything that's literally does not matter. It's gotten so bad now, there's literally parody accounts on Twitter that just complain about random stuff, even though it makes no sense why, just to be funny. It's become almost like a circus joke. Like, I feel like other countries are like laughing at the United States. I feel like Russia or somewhere, or China, is going, "Wait, Americans complaining about cartoon skunk." So stupid. Like, I do feel like that's going on in a lot of other countries right now. But these are non-issues. Stuff like this are. If you're spending your time complaining about a cartoon skunk instead of actually getting off your butt and going out and doing actual work and stuff to help people, and help people that are dealing with real racism, instead of complaining about this stupidity, then you're part of the problem already. Whether you're right or left, you're a part of the problem if you're doing that. If you're complaining about anything trivial and stupid like this instead of out actually doing something. And then, just to get off tangent here before I end this, there's a lot of actors too, or famous people, who just like throw some money to charity, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so oppressed, and I see so many other people oppressed, I'm going to help them by throwing $1 million here and there to some random charity who's going to take half the money before they actually donate it to whoever." Yeah, that's just something they do to like clean their conscience, or to make themselves feel better, like they're actually making some real big impact difference. Like, you want to convince me, like, if you're a billionaire or a millionaire, that you're really wanting to make a difference, donate like over 50% of your money. You don't need billions and millions of dollars and 2 billion sports cars and 2 billion motorcycles or all that, mansions or whatever, to exist on. All you need is a good house, maybe a good security system, and a place for your family. And that's pretty much it. if you really care about people, you'd be putting your ass out there and donating the majority of that money, not just like 20%, 10%, or 1%, or even 50%. You should be out there donating like 60%. Like if I was rich, honestly, now I know this is gonna seem like yeah, if you was rich, sure, you'd be doing that. But honestly, if I was rich and had like millions, billions of dollars, I would be giving a lot of money to charities, and not charities, but to like actual homeless people, not just even going to charities. Hell, I would go out and just like pass the money around to people who really needed it, and only keep like maybe less than 50% for myself, just to get by on and have a good life with and my family. That's pretty much it. But yeah, all in all, it's just become, cancel culture has just become like a joke at this point. You can't even take it seriously anymore. What started out as kind of like a good thing about wanting to fight for against like people like Harvey Weinstein and things like that has just become like a joke. It's just a joke now. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.